Am I live? I think I'm live. I've been trying to go live for 5 minutes and then realized that I had set the StreamYard for October 10th and I couldn't see the little notification at the bottom of the screen. I'm clicking the button and I'm like, why can't I go live? Because you scheduled it for 24 hours from now. Turned out to be the answer, which I did resolve. Without the help of a giant team of resources like Jake Tapper has at CNN, and without even having Brian Stelter underneath my desk tickling my testicles like he does for Jake Tapper. The desk is made for the perfect height and width of Brian Stelter. A potato fits perfectly under the table and in between Jake Tapper's legs. So, a source familiar with the matter told me. And you know, those are the most trustworthy sources. Are we live on Rockfin? We are. Here we go. The difference in election integrity activist and Kamala Harris activist. I'm so horny. Somebody get over here and dug me off. And has Satoshi of Bitcoin fame been identified? We'll find out. I know you're going to be hanging on the edge of your seat for that one. But first, let's start with a very, very important and consequential story that the Minnesota Supreme Court is facing. They're weighing in on a case that is going to impact the future of this country, whether or not we're able to continue operating in a functional way. And it's a case that involves the important subject of whether a woman going topless in public violates their indecent exposure law. This is the question of our time. A lot of nuances in there. What is considered topless? Breastfeeding is obviously a nuance you got to throw in. People are breastfeeding left and right. Men, women, theys, everybody's breastfeeding. You want to go topless, grab a baby, plop it on your nip. Nobody knows if you're lactating. You don't have to prove lactation. Not yet. Maybe in the future there'll be a precedent set where you can only flop out your titty in public if you can prove that you can lactate from it. Then maybe anybody can come get a sip. Everybody get in line for some raw milk because we got a lactating titty over there in the corner of the coffee house. I don't know. I'm just speculating about what the future Supreme Court in Minnesota, maybe of the land, might be discussing. But right now, we're just trying to figure out if it's a violation of the indecent exposure law for a woman to be topless. Again, I don't know if that means when the nipple comes out or side boob, or what if you can see through the shirt? What if it's a wet t-shirt and you can see the boobs clearly? That doesn't seem much different than the shirt just being off. Just seems a little less comfortable. Might as well take the shirt off. Unless she's ugly. Then leave it on. It's illegal if they're not attractive, is all. Unless they're not attractive and they have great breasts. Then it's great. This is what I'm assuming the Minnesota Supreme Court has been discussing the past couple of days. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm just putting myself in their seats, their shoes, their, I don't want to say breasts. I'm not a they, them. You get where I'm going. Nevertheless, let's see how they are handling this all-important question and what the story is that has led to this case being taken up by the Minnesota Supreme Court. And I have to say, that's a worthy case. Anything dealing with exposed breast should be expedited to the Supreme Court of the states and federally, if it gets to that point. Here is the story. There is a woman, 28-year-old woman, good age, Eloisa, Eloisa, Plancarte, I don't know how to pronounce it, Plan Plan to show your tits, I think, maybe. Plancarte. We'll call her Plan. We'll call her EP. That's what we'll call her. She was convicted of a misdemeanor earlier this year after police found her topless in the parking lot of and I have to spell this because it sounds exactly like a competitor, KWIK Trip. Queek Trip. Convenience store. She's in the parking lot. This is in Rochester. Actually, it wasn't earlier this year. It was 2021, so this case has been ongoing. These tits have been the subject of much discussion for 3 years now. What are her boobs like? Dude, the Supreme Court. Like, that's some street cred. If your boobs are so controversial that the Supreme Court has to take them up for issue for years. The article here says that this woman, EP, was topless. But this is where the definition of topless, and words do matter and definitions matter in the law. In propaganda, definitions are intentionally vague and never concrete, so they can manipulate them and bend them at their will. Because in propaganda, when you're trying to organize a bunch of people who you're lying to vote for you or do whatever, if you are too specific and concrete about a definition, then you will isolate the big tent. Because everybody implies their own definition, which in the big tent are vastly different from each other. So the second a politician gives a concrete definition, boom, they're gone. At least for many politicians. Yeah, some groups are a little more, they understand what definitions mean more than others, but some just, liberty, freedom, democracy, and I have derailed. Back to the story at hand, the definition here. Topless. It doesn't say topless in the police report. Let me show you the police report. I love this police report. One of my favorite police reports. This is the Rochester News Talk Rochester, KROC, 1340 AM, 96.9 FM. Justice hears case of bare-chested woman's arrest in Rochester. And you can see the court document here. The court documents are always better than the articles. They always leave good stuff out of the articles. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you guys. That KROC is a little obnoxious up there, isn't it? All right. So here's what it says in the actual court documents about them titties. This woman was not topless. She had a shirt on, but her bare breasts were fully exposed. She was walking around the parking lot with her shirt pulled up over her breasts like she was flashing somebody, is the sense that I get anyway. Thus it's exposing her breast with that maneuver. And it goes on to say in the thing that, let me step back for a second. When I first read this story, I just imagined that there was just a woman walking around with no shirt on, which could have been a situation where it's a naturalist who's walking, she's been in the woods, she's been in the river for weeks and weeks, and she emerged from the forest and she happens to walk through a convenience station parking lot, and these police arrest her, bam, 90 days in jail. It's not fair. Or all my shirts and tops are in the washer situation, or a homeless person, crackhead. But when you see that it's actually a shirt is on and it's being lifted over like you're at spring break or Mardi Gras. Saw my first boobs, by the way, when I was like 7 or 8 years old. Brother had a baseball tournament at Mardi Gras in Louisiana at LSU while Mardi Gras was going on. And I don't think my parents knew what it was because I'm walking down Bourbon Street, and I remember making eye contact with a girl right as she was pulling her breast up. She made eye contact with me, felt ashamed of herself, but it was a great moment for young Brad. Yada, yada, yada. My parents pulled me out of a strip club 3 hours later. Okay, so she's pulling it up like she's showing off the goods, advertising what she's got, which that's perfectly acceptable, and I think the Supreme Court should maybe even mandate that. But the police report further paints the scene by saying that in this convenience store parking lot, the lights at the gasoline pumps were brightly illuminating the lot, and I'm guessing them titties too. This is like a Hollywood picture we're seeing here. And there were at least 4 cars stationed at the gas pumps. So it's nighttime, lights are bright, the breasts are out, and these cars, it's like, hey man, you've been pumping gas for 45 minutes. I feel like you're just pretending now so you can stare at them boobs. Nobody's pumping gas. They're just sitting there, shoving the gas pump in who knows what. The officer asked Plancart, this is what the cop said, why do you keep exposing yourself? Because they've had an encounter before. It's not the first time it's happened. To which the topless or breast-exposed woman, Plancart, said, Catholic girls do it all the time. Why are you exposing yourself? Catholic girls do it all the time. These cops, these pigs, arrested a good Christian girl? Nobody's born with a top on. Nobody's born with a bra on. Eve wasn't clothed. After she said that Catholic girls do it all the time, she then added, she said, I dance at the biker club. Now we're starting to get a picture. I dance at the biker club. So right now, just start imagining the type of strippers you might see at the biker club, because that's a distinct type of stripper. You're going to see a different type of stripper at the biker club than you're going to see at, say, Magic City in East Point, Atlanta. Very different type of stripper. Also a different type of stripper than you'll see at the Cheetah, the Gold Club that used to be in Atlanta. Different levels here. Some of those places you're getting a lap dance and maybe a beach for under $10. Others you're not getting in the door for under $50. Claremont Lounge. Now that's a distinct stripper right there. So, where were we? Okay, so after she said she's a stripper at the biker club, the officer then responded by saying, well, you can't strip in the middle of the public. Okay, officer. Okay, officer boring. And, this kind of sounds like the beginning of a porno, honestly. Chicks walking through with her boobs out. There's these people watching at the gas pumps. A cop walks up and says, hey, why do you keep exposing yourself, babe? She says, well, Catholic girls do it all the time. And I'm a stripper at the biker club. And the cop's like, well, you can't expose yourself or strip in the middle of the public. Why don't we get back in my squad car and head back down to the precinct? I'm the only one on duty tonight. That is maybe what some of you were imagining. I'm guessing that all of you were imagining a male police officer during this interaction. It was not a male police officer. It was a female police officer. Maybe jealous. I don't know. The male police officers, they're probably like, come on, just let her do it. Just let her do it. She's a stripper at the biker club. She's trying to put food on the table. How are you going to get people into the biker club if they don't see what they're going to see when they go inside? Must be the reasoning. The cop then arrested the stripper, the female cop did, after that little interaction. And let's see if you guys can predict what goes on here. Did a search of the stripper's purse. And can any of you guess, I'll look at the chats. It's behind my document, but I'll look at it after I ask this. Can any of you guess what the officer found in a vial that was in the stripper's purse? The stripper had a vial in her purse that the officer found. What was in that vial? Any guesses? This is a ride. I'm going to give it a second. See a couple. Her tits are probably large and sad. The fun part about this story, Forrest Mommy, is trying to figure out the wide range of breast it could be and what the woman might look like. I mean, there's just such a opportunity for your imagination to explore. I found a picture of her, and I'm going to show her to you in a second. So GHB, Forrest Mommy predicted, Stoner predicted Coke, and we have a winner. Stoner's been to a strip club because always with the strippers and the Coke at the biker strip club, okay? If we're talking East Point, Atlanta, Magic City, we're talking crack. That's a crack in your vial, in the purse. That's crack everywhere. You're talking Claremont Lounge, then you're talking methamphetamines in the vial in your purse. You go to the biker club, I'm guessing maybe a little bit of a higher end biker club. You go to the Cheetah, you go to the Gold Club, that's pure coke, baby. You can't snort, you can't sniff. You can't have the sniffles in some of these strip clubs without ingesting a little bit of cocaine with the amount these strippers use. And you know, who wants to go pole dance without being a little coked up? Stoner does know his way around biker titty bars. The biker titty bar, so I think it all makes sense when you see the picture. Let me see where we are here. Make sure I got all the details first. By the way, this chick was sentenced to 90 days in jail. 90 days in jail for showing people what they wanted to see. I'm giving the people what they want, and you're persecuting me for it, as she, which is probably even more of what the people wanted. I wonder how many visits she got. Can I go visit? I'd like to go visit this. I saw a woman arrested, and I just feel for her. I wonder if she has a family. I just want to talk to her. Is she still naked? Do you guys clothe them, or do they stay as they are when you lock them up? I'm just curious. It makes me think about the Twitter account that shows all the really hot chicks that get arrested. People, Tripoli, and they're like Wood, Wood, all of them, because they're all very good looking. It's like murdered 18 people, and she's just smoking hot, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to give her a chance. And I was reading this story the other day about these chicks who are good looking, who they have these, I don't know, pen pals, but they have these dating sites. They can put their dating profile on, I'm in prison, but I'm getting out at this time, and here's what I'm looking for. And I got to say, the good-looking chicks are going to have the advantage there, too. If you ever watch Seinfeld, Costanza dated a woman who was in prison at one point in time. And he loved it because he was like, I know where she is. I always know where she is. I never have to worry. But then she got out, and she was clingy and didn't work out. Nevertheless, back to the story. 90 days in jail. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? Although, for guys, if you get caught peeing outside, you're a registered sex offender. Did you know that? In Georgia, you are. I think in most states you are. I mean, that is really harsh of a group to be clumped in. It is very, just like it's natural to have your breast exposed at a gas station, it's natural to pee in nature. But if you're peeing in your backyard in the woods and a cop happens to drive by and see that, a little urine stream, you could legitimately get arrested and be on the sex offender list and have to go knock on doors and say, when you move into a new neighborhood, I'm moving into a new neighborhood, and you tell them you're a sex offender, they don't separate you from, the real perverts. I mean, that's rough right there. Who among us hasn't peed in nature? So, this chick's lawyer told, so there was already some court appeals. And this chick's lawyer told the Minnesota Supreme Court this past Tuesday that the conviction should be reversed because she didn't expose a prohibited part of her body. Thank you. There's nothing prohibited. Tits shouldn't be prohibited. It should be free. It should be free for the community. It takes a community to raise a great pair of tits and keep to them. Previous court rulings have labeled public toplessness. She wasn't topless. She had a top on. Like, that's what I'd be arguing. Officer, show me where her top is off. I'm not. Focus away from the tits for a second at the top on her shoulders below her neck. Case dismissed. It's all going to come down to the definition of toplessness. Pretty soon, people are going to be like, yeah, I'm topless, and they're just going to have their shirts wrapped around their head, and we're like, you're just manipulating language again because of that court case. Previous court rulings have labeled public toplessness by women, but not by men, as indecent exposure. Now, that is definitely some unfair treatment. I mean, hell, I used to play basketball, shirts and skins all the time. That's not fair. What, chicks can't play with us? What if a girl wants to play? she's on the skins team, and she's got to wear her shirt. And so I'm trying to pass the ball to my teammate, and I get confused, and I never pass her the ball because I can't see her tits. This is not fair. The rulings, so the state law, apparently, according to this asshole, whoever this is, senior assistant county cocksucker or something, says that the state law protects women who are breastfeeding from indecent exposure charges, which, I think maybe we should maybe talk about that one a little, okay? Because some women are a little too, I'm going to breastfeed in public just because I can, and they're obnoxious about it, We don't need you. I mean, how much food does this kid eat? Have you ever seen that? Somebody just breastfeeding for hours, like a kid, and the rest of the family, the rest of the kids get in line. They're like teenagers. My sister, for a little while, and I don't get on TikTok. I know you'll say it's something about my algorithm, but I didn't have an algorithm. She kept sending me these videos on TikTok that when you looked at the image and the text message, it looked like a dog video or something, like a cute dog, cuddling with a cat, or, the dog cheese song, give me the cheese tax. And then I click on it, and this happened like 3 times in a row. And every time, instead of the cute dog video, it was a gigantic 300-pound black woman sitting on a public park bench breastfeeding. I'm like, what are you doing to me? What kind of trick is this? Now, I don't open any text message videos from her anymore. Bonnie, I'm sorry. You scarred me with Lizzo breastfeeding her kid in public, who's losing weight, by the way. Good for Lizzo. I'm in a rare mood tonight. I was going to do the story like this, and now I'm like, let's really milk this story. Let's really tweak this story and lactate everything we can out of this story. Suck on it a little, slap it around. Maybe smash a beer can with this story in between it. State law prohibits the breastfeeding. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, here's another part of the law. State law protects women who are breastfeeding, as I said, from the indecent exposure charges, which this person said is evidence that the female breasts are considered private parts under Minnesota law. See, this, I disagree with this lawyer's assessment. The argument here is that the state law protects women who are breastfeeding from indecent exposure charges. So you can't be charged with that, which therefore means that breasts are considered private parts because of that protection. I don't know. I think that's a weak argument. I'm going to need some precedent laws and lots of images, videos, maybe some firsthand breast testimony, hand-to-breast testimony, mouth-to-breast testimony, something. The jury needs to get in there and really explore this area of the case, this law. I mean, this is true. This is legal work right here. This is what it means to break down statutory law and case precedent. This is the hard work people don't do. And I know I've talked a lot about boobs as though I think that this would be a good thing, honestly. And I'm going to show you her picture in a second. But I have to be honest with myself, and I have to be honest with you, that as much as I feel for this woman, and she shouldn't have been in jail for 90 freaking days, without a top on, nevertheless, if it were determined that women could just walk around topless in public all the time and it's not indecent exposure, just tits everywhere all of the time, men would get nothing done. Society would collapse. Everything would crumble because we'd be staring at tits all day. Do you know how hard it is already for us to not stare at covered tits all day long? I mean, it takes a conscious effort for us to not, don't look, I'm looking at them. I mean, it's like a kid when they're looking at a screen for the first time, they're mesmerized. We lose track of time and space when we lock eyes with a nipple. And if these things are everywhere for us, America's gone. The world is gone if this expands. I think Putin's behind this. I think this is a Russian operative trying to crumble America. Maybe she should be in jail for 90 days. I mean, imagine jogging in the park. I mean, that's already, the sports bras are already difficult. They're just everywhere. And you're in the park would suddenly be full of men all of the time, of all shapes and sizes. We'd be moving into the park. We'd all be homeless in the park waiting for the joggers. And if that leads to, well, dudes can take their pants off and jog. No. My gosh. We can't normalize this behavior. Here she is. Where's this bitch? Or maybe she's nice, but I have to say, kind of looks like a bitch when you see her. What do you guys think she looks like? So I've been rambling about this. What do you guys think this chick looks like? I'm gonna give about 30 more seconds in the chats to see what you guys predict she looks like. Milk wagon titties, says Stoner. The dump truck asses. Maybe. You know, that's a possibility. Any other thoughts in there? Like, what else? I mean, it could be a lot of things, you know. She could be pregnant. A lot of pregnant strippers. I mean, it's a good job. That's a great job, actually, stripper. But I feel like OnlyFans is probably taken away from the strip clubs, opening up jobs for new strippers who maybe before couldn't have made it in that game. We have Stella saying she's a terrorist. A terrorist of mammatus proportions. I know I said that wrong. I'll put it on screen so you guys can read it because it's very funny. Stella, I want to get you on the show when you're available soon to talk about weather manipulation stuff. I know that's right down your alley. 40s, hot, in the 80s, like poison. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, maybe she is 80. What if she's 80 years old? Which Nancy Pelosi could be a stripper at any strip club in the country. Main stage, headlining dancer, okay? Nancy Pelosi can walk topless through a fucking convenience store, Quick Trip parking lot, and nobody's stopping her. That's something everybody in this country wants. Meth head Stevie Nicks. Okay, I think that's getting close. I actually wasn't expecting this look, but there's a little meth head in there. But what we got is apparently we got like Orange is the New Black prison stripper at the biker. I mean, maybe the hair here, she has is that a tattoo by her eyebrow or is that just her eyebrow? Like, I can't tell if her eyebrow expands all the way around her eye. Like a hook. I mean, her eyebrow, if that's her eyebrow, looks like a dolphin leaping with the tail is like up under the eye, and the nose of the dolphin is like all the way around and on top of where the edge of her nose is. I think that might actually be her eyebrow. I thought it was a tattoo at first. I thought it was like a tear tattoo. Is that a heart? What is that? Looks like the girl in the movie One of the Guys. Yeah, it kind of does. I think she has a long eyebrow, and I think she went to a tattoo parlor one day and said, "Do you see my, world record length eyebrow here curving around? I want you to make a heart tattoo at the very tip of it." I think that's a heart tattoo. And she looks exactly like the type of a girl who would walk through a Quick Trip convenience store parking lot saying, "It's what good Catholics girl do. I'm a stripper at the biker bar. This girl will force a lap dance on you." I'm really disappointed, though. All we see is her face. All we see is her face. How can they tell us this story and not show us what we're working? We have no idea what's below that headshot. She could have dicks for tits, for all we know. And that should definitely be considered indecent exposure. And if you have dick for tits and you're running around topless, you need to be a sex offender, regardless of whether or not you're pissing out of them in public. Okay, and that's where I'm going to conclude my position on this case. And look at her mouth. Look, it looks like she's holding her mouth in this photo, this mugshot. Like right before they took the shot, she was threatening to suck the camera person's dick. She's like, "I will suck it," and then they snap the photo, and this is what you got. she's definitely in charge of the jail gang. Jail for 90 days, because prison's different than jail. So, like the drunk tank for 90 days, unless they're just describing it wrong. I don't know which would be better. I mean, do you want to go to the permanent residence of the prison for 90 days where it might be a little more comfortable, but if you're a guy, probably going to get, raped? Or do you want to stay in the drunk tank where, anybody could come in and shiv you, but probably a lot less forced butt sex in there? I don't know. I've been in the Fulton County Slammer for a night, the same one Trump went to, wrongfully, I might add. And I got to tell you, not the most welcoming place among the prisoners. Fortunately, I didn't have to go into a holding cell because they were all full and they had to jam all of us into the small number of seats, the plastic uncomfortable seats like a high school lunchroom or something. And if you're lucky enough to get a seat, then you wouldn't have to stand up, which sucked because even though the cops knew there wasn't enough seats for everybody, they're constantly saying, sit down, sit down. So you got to squat down or hope to get a seat. And then it's like musical chairs. And then all of a sudden you're fighting a 6'8" black guy with bloodshot red eyes over a seat. It's like, you take the seat, I'll sit on your lap. And if you're ever in that situation, I'll give you some advice. And you do get one of those seats and you look over and the guy sitting next to you is just as I described that man, 6'8", probably, at least 250, bloodshot eyes, looked like he was in there because he murdered somebody. Don't look at him with a straight face and go, hey man, what are you in for? He didn't think that was funny at all. I thought it was hilarious. He wanted to commit his second homicide of the night. Fortunately, I got out of there after arguing with a crackhead who kept trying to trade me his cheese sandwich for my cheese sandwich. They're the same sandwich, I told him. Give me a sandwich. It's the same sandwich. You look at it. It's the same sandwich. There's nothing different about the sandwich. There's no crack in my sandwich. Keep your sandwich. I'll keep my sandwich. Stopped breathing on me as we were waiting in line to go get the finger up the ass. My friend swooped in just in the nick of time, and the crackhead got both sandwiches. Congratulations to him. Thank you, white privilege. My friend was a cop, which helped. Yeah, actually exactly like the movie Trading Spaces. Yeah, jail is just like being back at school, except, there's only one black guy in my school, so, and he wasn't 6'8", ready to kill me. He was whiter than I was, actually. There's two black guys. Strangely enough, both the whitest guys at our school. They're both like, what's that? Hootie and the Hootie from Hootie and the Blowfish is what they were like. The whitest black guy. He's a country music singer now, I think. Now, I totally did not. That was supposed to be a 5-minute story. 33 minutes. We'll move on to the next one anyway, which kind of fits the theme here. More Doug Emhoff stories. Been a lot of stories about second gentleman Doug Emhoff coming out lately that, if you believe them, if they're true, taint his image as a wife guy or just a flaming homosexual married to a woman or a gentle, sometimes slightly powerful bottom to Tim Walz. Like, that reputation's getting a little tainted, which is ironically his favorite spot on Tim Walz, the taint, because it's making him look like he's everything they say Donald Trump is, Doug Emhoff. And Doug Emhoff is supposed to be the gay, metrosexual. I talk like this. I'm a wife guy. I'm a beta. And I'm here for Kamala. And everything I do is the fucking gayest thing. I couldn't be gayer if I was getting plowed by 18 dudes from the biker bar and pegged in the mouth by the jail stripper. He acts like the gayest person anybody's ever met. It's like the person that you knew in high school that everybody assumed was gay, and then you see a few years later, and they say, oh, I came out of the closet. And you're like, oh, wait, you weren't out of the closet in college or high school? It's one of those things. It's weird. It's weird how it's obvious sometimes to everybody except, maybe not, but I think it's different now. I think everybody's gay now. I think everybody is gay or trans now. So it's good. It's comfortable. It's very, very comfortable. I'll be going to the Atlanta Pride Festival kickoff tomorrow, speaking of which, transition, because Doug Emhoff is kicking it off. The kickoff event is featuring supposedly heterosexual, married to a woman, Doug Emhoff. So I'm going to go down there and try and get him to suck on a penis straw. And I'm going to see if he'll take a cock ring for Kamala, if they let me anywhere near it. Every time I go to one of these, I'm regulated to behind the perimeter, 100 yards away, with a drone over my head, because you're not supposed to be there unless you're on one of the buses. It's crazy. It's really crazy how controlled these things are. But we're going to try it again. We are going to try it again. Back to Doug Emhoff. So these stories, the ones that have come out, you guys, I'm sure you heard them. He's been accused of impregnating his nanny, of beating his ex-girlfriend in public after she touched a valet driver, thought he was flirting with her, so he beat the shit out of her. I don't know if he still tipped the valet driver. I don't know. That part of the story is still a mystery, if any of it's true. And now, and this is according to the Daily Wire, which the Daily Wire is just as propagandistic as any of these other outlets. So, and it's October. But Doug Emhoff, my speculation is that Doug Emhoff is a piece of shit. And maybe not this way, but in other ways. So I don't care what they accuse him of. They're all going to be accusing each other. There's going to be so much crazy accusations in the next few weeks. It's going to be like, J.D. Vance butt-fucked a cheetah. He butt-fucked a cheetah. He impregnated a cheetah, and he's got a hybrid baby that he refuses to acknowledge as though it were Hunter Biden's daughter. It's got a cheetah head and a human body. It's a fucking freak kid, but it's great at debates. It's very eloquent. It's got its father's skill. But a very, very vicious temper. One woman who worked, so they got all these accusations from people who worked with Doug Emhoff at this law firm. And I'm going to read them to you, and almost none of them are actual crimes or wrongdoing or even anything that you wouldn't think is already happening anytime there's a bunch of good-looking women working underneath dudes with money who specifically hire them because they're good-looking. I mean, this is like exactly what you would expect, being framed as though some sort of crime. It says, one woman who worked underneath Emhoff at his law firm told the Daily Mail that he showed favoritism towards young, pretty girls at their firm. By young, since working at a firm, it's going to be out of college, not Jeffrey Epstein young. She said him and every other... No, wait, what did she say? She said, if there was an event like the Justice Ball, which is, they have these things, they have that in law school, you go to the Justice Ball, where everybody gets hammered. It's supposed to be, justice, but it's really just debauchery, what it is. He would favor certain people going to the Justice Ball, which is a party where people go get hammered and do drugs. I've been to it at my law school, okay? People go there to get laid, and usually it was the young, pretty girls that he would show favoritism to when inviting women to this thing. He would prefer for them to ride with him, this woman says. He would get a limo, and he would ask the hot girls that he hired, because they're pretty, you want to go to the Justice Ball and suck this cock. Suck this M-cock. What would be the expectation here? Did they think that these dudes who probably were very unpopular, Doug Emhoff doesn't strike me as somebody who was a guy's guy, because he's not. He's a pussy. And he's effeminate, and he's a weasel. It's very obvious he's a weasel. He's one of those guys, if he is hetero, who probably tells women, or used to tell women, that he's gay, specifically to get them to let their guard down. And then he starts talking about feminism, and then they leave their drink alone. Bam, GHB, as was mentioned in the chats earlier, and all of a sudden, Dougie is in there unexpected. I mean, there are a lot of fucking creepy-ass dudes like that they're all progressives. I've never met one that is not the biggest flaming progressive because they think that virtue signaling is what will get women to let their guards down. That's what Doug Emhoff comes off as to me if he is straight. And so somebody like this gets money and power and can get a limo and get people who he is a supervisor to. What do they expect them to do? Go, hey, fatty, finish up that bucket of KFC and roll your Quasimodo ass over here. And if we can fit it into the limo, let's go fucking get wild tonight. Is that supposed to be the standard? I mean, this is just the type of behavior. I mean, and this is in Hollywood. He was a lawyer, a powerful lawyer in Hollywood, a powerful Jewish lawyer, the first ever Jewish spouse of a VP and first one of a presidential candidate. You can see all those. There's a funny list of all of the first with Kamala, which I went through it the other day, and it's actually kind of enlightening because if you wonder why they chose Kamala instead of maybe Michelle O or anybody else, the first this, first that makes it pretty clear in my opinion, specifically because of Doug Emhoff and because of the Divine Nine, Black Illuminati. That's just my opinion. Nevertheless, let's get back to Doug Emhoff acting the way people act in Hollywood when they have money. It also says that he's being accused of telling girls who didn't flirt back with him at the office to get the fuck out of his office and then going to brag to his boys later about putting those bitches in their place. Yeah, tried to bang her. She wouldn't do it. So I said, get the fuck out, bitch. And, you know, they're slapping high fives and bumping dicks. And he's just described as being an asshole. They say he was a misogynist. Again, none of this is a crime. I don't even know how this really harms him because nobody who loves Doug is going to read it. The people I talk to, by the way, when I infiltrate, you learn so much as I've been infiltrating these White Dudes for Harris groups, pretending to be one, doing my best Doug Emhoff impersonation. They love Doug Emhoff. They love Tim Walz. They love Doug Emhoff more. The term adorable is the one that I heard most. I go up to them, I say, I bet you're like me. I bet you like Doug Emhoff. And they go, he's so adorable. I just love their relationship, him and Kamala, because they're so much fun. It's relationship. So I started saying, yeah, relationship goals, right? Wish I could find me a Dougie, you know, because if you tell them you're gay, they'll welcome you in, just as I described. This is what these White Dudes for Harris, I just pulled the total Doug Emhoff. I'm a feminist gay dude, except I was just trying to get them to talk to me, and they're all like 80 years old. And there's one lady who was probably pushing 80, very sweet lady, who told me, and she meant it. She said if Trump wins, if he becomes president, and Project 2025 implemented, it was a Stop Project 2025 rally that we were doing these man on the street things and messing with people. And the videos on my X profile and youtube.com/Brad Binkley, you can find it in the highlights section of my X profile, along with my LARPing as a White Dude for Harris at DragonCon video. But I'm talking to this lady, and she says she's going to have to leave the country if Trump is elected. Because if Trump's elected, he's going to round up people like her. He's going to round up 75-year-old widows like her and put them in encampments. The first thing I'm going to do, day one, when I become a dictator, all the old bitches are being encamped. We're going to kill them all. We're going to kill them all like Cuomo did, Governor Cuomo, during COVID. We're going to do the old folks' home on a train track. I mean, that's kind of crazy, right? You know, there's a lot of issues with Trump, but like to think that if you're an 85-year-old, she's an 85-year-old white woman, by the way, who almost definitely has a little bit of wealth. I mean, these were people who have enough, this was not a poor woman, okay? They go and do these events every single day, and she's probably retired, who believes that she'll have to flee the fucking country because Trump's top priority is to get the 75-year-old bitches out of here. We're going to deport. We're going to send them to Mexico and show them what it's really like. The cartel. We're going to give them to the Haitians. The Haitians are going to stop cooking your dogs because they're having 75-year-old white bitch for dinner tonight. They're tiny. You can fit them on the grill. Keep your dogs. So my thinking with the Doug Emhoff stories, because I don't think they're effective, I almost think that they're all fake and that Kamala Harris leaked them herself. Doug beats his girlfriends. Dougie impregnates his nanny. Dougie tries to fuck every hot bitch that he hires, his trophy secretaries, they call them, to convince us that Doug Emhoff is straight. I think Kamala leaked all this to make us think that she's married to a heterosexual, which that's what's really appalling to me. Because Kamala should be proud to be married to a flaming homosexual. That's part of her ESG, DEI shit. If people really believed Dougie was straight or a chauvinist, they'd be like, oh, he's just like other guys? We want a gay guy that Kamala's pretending to be married to. I don't get. It's the same thing with Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. I never understood why they never and still haven't, although Barack kind of did in one of his books, basically admit that he's gay. I never understood why Barack wasn't like, yeah, breaking news. I'm gay. I'm a homosexual. Love dick. Specifically, don't worry. No infidelity here. No infidelity. Love Michelle's dick. Mike's dick. Mike's a man. And then Mike whips out the dick, and you have the tranny with the big dick, and everything makes sense, and you have gay Obama slobbing on it, and all is right with the world. They would get a standing ovation from the nation, and they would never be more celebrated and put up on a pedophile if they did that. Why would they not do that? I mean, even if she's not a guy, they should lie about it and say that she is, because it would raise their status. They'd give them another term, because they'd be like, Obama was straight during his first term, but now he's gay, he's a different person. So I wonder if you could do that. So you get 8 years, but if you identify somebody else, which a lot of people just change their name to like a single name, like they just pick an object in the room. I'm desk lamp. You call me anything other than desk lamp, you're dead naming me. And I'm gender fluid, so it swaps, and I'll never tell you which one I am on any given day. But if you guess wrong, I'm going to the ACLU, okay? And guess what? I am going to be celebrated, and this group, activist group, is going to fund me going to the Olympics because I have the superpower of being a pain in everybody's ass. All right. You saw the Department of Destroying Old Ladies on Trump's website. You know, Nate, I haven't been to his website, and there might be the Department of Destroying Old Ladies after he rapes them, obviously. There's no way. Look, hey, did you set the train of old ladies on fire yet? Don't. I haven't fucked them all yet. We're going to see how pregnant we can get these bitches and show them what a forced pregnancy looks like. That womb's not dead yet. Postmenopausal my ass. I mean, I'm exaggerating clearly, but I say stuff like this with a straight face to these people, and they agree with it. I make up random things and say, yeah, this awful thing that is ridiculous is in Project 2025. And they respond to me by saying, I know, it's so awful. I read Project 2025 and I just made it up. And they're like, I fucking read it and it's terrifying. This is effective brainwashing, the way that, you know, people like this can truly believe that is going to be what happens. Now, what happens, I don't know. I don't know what other impacts might be terrible for them. But I think got bigger fish to fry than the old ladies, than the boomer ladies. I mean, Trump's a boomer. You know, maybe he'll just, live a polyant. Maybe he's like, Melania, I'm tired of how pretty you are. And he'll send her over to me. Melania can come live with me. Barron can come over. I'll have to raise the ceilings. Barron can carry me around on his shoulder while I hold his mom's hand. I mean, Melania's like tall herself, but I've talked about it with Trump. I said, if something happens to you or you decide to go the old lady way, can I take a crack at Melania? And he gave me his blessing, so I'm not trying to step on his feet. Trying to, I'm not even going to go there. I'm already too out of control tonight. Extra strength Blue Chew. Is Blue Chew like a dick pill. What is, so Blue Chew is the ads they have on X, isn't it? Where it's just always a girl with huge tits. And you're like, oh, what's Blue Chew? I don't know what it is, but gimme. Oh, another Blue Chew. Where did they get all these models with double D breast who are looking at me like they know my soul through X? When we were on WSB, so when you're on the radio and you have a 3-hour show, it's an hour and a half of talk. Actually, it's not even that, really. It's like 5 minutes. It's like 3 topics repeated for an hour and a half with some callers. And then it's an hour and a half of dick pill ads. Nothing but erectile dysfunction listening to WSB. I mean, like, so many erectile dysfunction ads. All right, but nobody's going to have a problem with that because, Doug Emhoff, he is the new masculinity. And isn't that crazy how they kind of brand him as the new masculinity? Doug Emhoff and Tim Walsh it's very refreshing, is what CNN says. Very refreshing how they're showing American men who don't want to be alpha male tough like Trump and Hulk Hogan. They're showing them that you can be, low key, you can be low T maybe, this is the new masculinity. This is what the new man is. There was a whole conversation CNN had about that at the DNC. I mean, in every other way, without actually saying it, the new masculinity is to be a flaming homosexual pretending to be married to a woman. Like beta, and now you have Emhoff going to these events with Beto. This is programming. Emhoff, the most beta dude ever, shows up to a burger joint with Beto O'Rourke in Texas. And the one thing that stands out in the video is one thing Kamala doesn't like about me is I get these straws from Whataburger, and it's the longest red. It looks like a red rocket, okay? Looks like a dick. And he goes, I put it in my ear. And he's like, Kamala hates that. And he's turning his head, and Beto's standing there. And like this like straw that's in Emhoff's ear, every time he turns his head, is like poking Beto O'Rourke in the side of the mouth and the nose. And just instinctually, Beto, just like a horse, is and now I'm just watching Beto O'Rourke suck off Doug Emhoff's straw on an Instagram video. I didn't ask for that. I am going to be bringing very long red straws tomorrow when we go to this event. See if I can entice. I'm going to say, Dougie, we got the long red Whataburger straws. Kamala hates it, but betas love it. We're going to do everything we can to try and get him to take a picture with us. And I'd really like to get him in the ball gag. I'm going to bring the ball gag. I'm going to bring the dick sucker candy I had. Because I got all these sex toys. These dick suckers are called dick suckers. See, it's weird when you go to this store. Because I'm like, if I'm going to go to Dragon Con and I'm going to really sell this, I need a wig, which I borrowed from my sister. And I need a bunch of, like, bachelorette dick, the stuff that they do, like hats and whatever. And so I went in and I was like, hey, where are your penis straws? And he goes, over there. And I was like, oh, they're the cocksuckers. But right next to the cocksuckers, straws, were the cocksucker candies. I'm like, wow, a lot of cocksuckers, different kind of cocksuckers. I got them both. And then I went over to the whips and I said, man, how much is this whip? And I'm just, doing it on my hand. And he goes, oh, let me check for you. That whip is great, man. Everybody loves it. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, great review. This kid's like 21. He goes, great reviews, man. And I go, well, have you tried it, bro? He goes, I haven't yet, man. But dude, I'm wanting to. He's really selling this. So I bought the whip. Bought the whip because you never know what you might need to pull out at Dragon Con or Doug Emhoff's gay pride launch tomorrow. And on top of that, I said, okay, man, I think I got everything I need. Just point me towards the direction of the cock rings. Grab a dozen or so of those. I'm going to be out of your way. Went over to the cock ring section, said, do I get the stretchy cock rings that start off small, but you can widen them. You can make them bigger, okay? Don't judge a man by the size of his cock ring before he puts it on. These are rubbery. They can work as like a ring, too, like a wedding ring. Put them on your nose, your ears. Not apparent right away what they are until I say, this is a refurbished cock ring for Kamala, and they take it, And they take it right away. And then they had the big cock ring. So I got, long story short, I gave away a lot. Almost everybody at DragonCon wanted a penis straw or a cocksucker or a cock ring, but I just bought way too many. And so now I have all these cock rings and these cock candy cocksuckers and these dick sucker straws around my house that I need to get rid of because if something happens to me and I'm gone and my family comes over and they're like, oh God, we found Brad surrounded by a bunch of weird sex toys. So I need to get rid of this stuff stat. Maybe keep a few, okay? And I'm counting on Doug Emhoff to take these cock rings off my hands and put them on Tim Walsh's dick. Probably with his mouth. Now, moving on to the next story. Has Satoshi, what's his last name? Satoshi Nakamoto, whose true identity is unknown. Satoshi Nakamoto is the person who is credited with inventing Bitcoin. Would be a very, very wealthy person. Maybe is a wealthy person. Had he said, I created the Bitcoin, the thing that you shall not call crypto that technically is, but everybody who loves Bitcoin will scoff at you if you clump it together with all those shitty crypto. He created Bitcoin, the freedom currency, many people believe. And, I get what they're saying about it. And I'll say this. Went to the Bitcoin conference, never seen so many nerds in my life with smoking hot Asian girlfriends. There's something to it, okay? The people there were either the biggest dorks dudes you've ever seen in your life, or they were 75-year-old men, and they all had 28-year-old Asian girlfriends. I think there was a factory or something. I think if you get enough Bitcoin, you can put one in a 28-year-old Asian girlfriend machine, and boom, you got that in a Lamborghini. Never seen so many Lamborghinis. So something they're doing right. Or maybe their grandma gave them some Bitcoin when they were 10, and bada bing, bada boom. Asian girlfriend. There's something to it, and they love Satoshi Nakamoto. Everything at the Bitcoin conference, Satoshi Nakamoto, it's a myth, it's a legend. It's a shadowy history. What is it? It creates some of the intrigue around the narrative of Bitcoin. And somebody, this guy who's creating a documentary for HBO named Cullen Hoback, it's a weird name. Cullen Hoback sounds like somebody Doug Emhoff is about to pound in the ass. His secretary, maybe. Dude created this HBO documentary. Says he solved the riddle. He says he believes Satoshi is neither a programming expert nor a criminal mastermind, but is instead a developer, just a modest developer from Canada. And that his name is Peter Todd. He thinks Satoshi Nakamoto, a very cool and intriguing name, is actually a Canadian named Peter Todd. I mean, that's kind of stupid. We got a 2 first name white dude who you don't have to see him to know that he wears shin high socks every day with the white New Balance shoes that everybody's dad has. That's this guy's outfit. This is Nakamoto or whatever he is. Although, we shouldn't get our hopes up yet, because in this documentary, and it says this in the article, which is funny to me, it says that he doesn't present any proof. This is what it says in the article. Hoback doesn't present proof that Todd is Nakamoto in this documentary. Then why the fuck am I going to watch the documentary? Well, because what he does instead is he strings together coincidences from forum posts from 15 years ago to argue, leaping to many conclusions, that this is in fact the most likely candidate. So basically he's MSNBC and CNN when they talk about anything. I don't have any proof, but I chose this to be the outcome, and therefore I'm going to go to leaps in logic to connect things so that I can sell this documentary, which that's what this is. This guy also made a bullshit documentary where he identified who he believes the people behind QAnon are. But that I will say this. They contacted this 2 first name guy, who this other guy thinks is Satoshi. And they got some statements from him. Let's see what you guys think about his statements. When they contacted him in an email, Todd denied inventing Bitcoin. If somebody emailed me and said, you invented Bitcoin, I don't think I would respond to that email. So right off the bat, I'm like, so he believes that there's some sort of plausibility there, I feel like, because the guy was apparently in the chat forum years ago. And then he also said that Hoback should stop looking for the... So he said, I didn't invent Bitcoin, and Hoback needs to stop looking for the cryptocurrency's founder. Interesting. Then he said, not only is the question dumb, it's dangerous. Satoshi obviously didn't want to be found for good reasons, and no one should help people trying to find Satoshi. Sounds like something Satoshi might say, or if you know the Bitcoin culture, anybody who is religiously devoted to Bitcoin might say. So that's how they get you out of context with this. This actually sounds like somebody who might be like, oh, fuck, they found me. Stop looking for Satoshi. How dare you? But in context, this is probably what everybody who was at the Bitcoin conference that I went to, they'd probably say the exact same thing. Stop looking for him, man. It's a good reason he's hiding. Or not hiding, but stepped away. And it says here, because of Nakatomo's potentially immense wealth, Todd said in an email to the Post that Hoback's claim that he is the Bitcoin inventor could expose him to kidnappers or other criminals. I mean, that'd be a bummer if he's not. And really, what are you going to take? What are you going to take? You going to take his wallet? You going to crack open his safe and put all the Bitcoins, in your robber bag? I guess you can try to take his ledger. But I don't think kidnappers steal crypto or Bitcoin that way. I think they cyber hack it if they can. But maybe they can, put a gun to his head, force him to transfer it over. Ahead of the documentary's release, Todd said he's going on a trip to escape potential danger. So this guy is so afraid, the guy he accused, that people will believe he is Satoshi, that he's going to go on a vacation to hide out. Interesting. Very interesting. Maybe this guy's working with the documentary guy to create intrigue. That would actually be probably my top explanation to why this guy sounds so much like he's trying to, like he's Satoshi trying to prevent people from finding out. I bet this is a coordinated PR stunt. And he says, falsely claiming that ordinary people of ordinary wealth who have an odd, I think, so I'm imagining, as he says this, I'm imagining this guy surrounded by the most sophisticated Bitcoin mining machines in the world going, falsely claiming that ordinary people with ordinary wealth are extraordinarily rich, exposes them to threats like robbery and kidnapping. And then you have all the best Bitcoin machines just pumping out. I don't know how the fuck it works when you mine. What are they looking for? What are the crypto Bitcoin miners looking for? They're not looking for anything. They're creating the Bitcoin. Did you know that? Did you know that Bitcoin mining isn't mining like finding gold? It's solving a puzzle. From my understanding, that once the puzzle is solved, it creates the Bitcoin that wasn't previously there, but only a limited number of them can be created. I don't know what the hell that is. I know if a bunch of people agree to use it, though, it's just as good as, the cash in our wallet, or the cash and that long eyebrow biker club stripper's thong because she's not wearing a bra or top. Yeah, okay, so I am going to do what I did. I intended to spend most of the show the clitoris stoner. I just popped into the chat there and I saw the clitoris. Mets hot, yeah. You talking about, I don't mean to go off track. Is he talking about the Mets? Maybe the feds could torture the Mets? I have some Bitcoin. It's in my pocket. I do go in stores a lot. And when there's people there who look like they probably don't know much about it, like they've heard about it, I start looking around. I'm like, hey, did you see my bag of Bitcoin sitting anywhere? And they'll be like, they'll look around and they'll go, we got a lost and found. I'm like, yeah, it's a part purple, part orange bag. And it's got like 40 or 50 Bitcoin in there. And he'll go look through it. And it amuses me. I don't let them look for it for a while, okay? I'm not a dick. I'm joking. You can't even touch Bitcoin. You can't touch it. Just like a stripper at a biker club. If you don't go inside the biker club because you didn't see your tits in the parking lot to entice you to come in, then you can touch it at the biker club. Now, at the Golds, you can't touch it. You can't touch it there. Claremont Lounge, Magic City, they'll force you to touch it or they'll beat your ass and make you leave. You have to have sex with the strippers. No protection. Everybody gets AIDS at Magic City. AIDS for everybody. NFTs, yeah, there was a lot of NFT stuff too. Don't get me wrong. There's some people that had some interesting ideas about some of the Bitcoin stuff. But the NFTs is one thing that we talked to some people about. I was like, so what is an NFT? Well, like, what is the value of it? And this one guy, he handed me this gold cassette tape. And it was basically an NFT. It was like art is the way he described it, but it was functional. And he was rebranding it as something other than NFT, but I asked him to explain the functionality of it to me. And then what I said to him, I said, can I put this in my old truck's cassette player? And when I put it in, will it power my vehicle? So I don't have to get gasoline. And he paused and he goes, well, that's not too far off. Like they're working on that or something. But he said that it's just, I don't really get it a lot, but you can access all your digital songs and you put it in, and I'm like, so it's just like a cassette tape, but with more storage space, it sounds like. I don't know, man. I don't think I'm smart enough to really understand it yet. I'm trying. Yeah, like in the movie Go, exactly. All right, so I want to show you guys a couple of these before I get out of here. I did want to hit this kind of cool subject, which I talked about a little bit yesterday, the Georgia State Elections Board meeting, the public comments that people had. And I only got through a couple of the clips yesterday. I have like 25 minutes of these. I'll just play a couple today and probably do some more later this week or next week. But the reason that I want to show this stuff is because the public comment section at the meeting yesterday, the Georgia State Elections Board, most of you are aware, but is at the center of the 2024 election in America. It is potentially the most controversial, I just spit all over my mic there, the most controversial aspect, divisive aspect that could have the biggest impact, on how they want to shape or direct the election, not just in Georgia, but across the country, because it involves a group of people who have been fighting for election transparency and election integrity and to improve and fix the elections as much as possible for far longer than Donald Trump has been a politician. Long before 2016, voter GA was doing this. Doing it on both sides. When I met Garland Favorito, he was advocating, he said he believed that the Democrat John Ossoff had actually beaten Karen Handel in the Georgia special elections. He is not a partisan guy. Fast forward to 2020. He's doing the same thing that he always did. But because he believed, and he's proved, that there have been many, many problems in Georgia specifically, he's shown it, and it's not even in dispute. They just don't let them keep investigating, that there were many problems that gave Joe Biden votes that should have gone to Trump, and there's many dead people who voted. People voted multiple times. I watched almost this entire meeting, which was 8 hours long, and I was blown away because I don't think anybody can watch that and actually pay attention to it and walk away not being 100% confident that that election and any election that they've ever wanted to steal has been stolen, because everything is super vulnerable on purpose, and they will go to all ends to prevent the obvious problems in the election systems from being fixed. Because if they are fixed, it makes it harder. They don't want watchdogs. They want to go back to when nobody was paying attention to election integrity. They don't like having all of these people suddenly fired up about it, which is what made me start talking about the theory. At first, or lately, I've been of the belief that because of this specifically, that there's no way they're going to let Trump win because they're working so hard to make sure they can steal it. And that's absolutely what they're doing, to leave the cracks open. But then I started to wonder, well, if they did let Trump win, then that would dissipate much of this enthusiasm about election integrity scaling back the watchdogs because people would believe wrongfully, because the person who, and I think there's no question that if it was an honest election that Trump would win in a landslide. I think there's zero chance Kamala would have even a chance in hell. And I've been to multiple states, talked to people all over. There is no enthusiasm for Kamala. There's tons of enthusiasm from people of all races, of gay people. Like, it's crazy, man. There's nothing for Kamala. The most enthusiastic people for Harris that I've seen, and I told y'all this yesterday, was Ian and I when we went to that Stop Project 2025 rally, and all these old people were getting tired, and their leader was going, come on, guys, 40 more minutes. And we're going, come on, guys, let's do it. We were pumped. We were the most enthusiastic. And they're all enthusiastic to stop Trump. Nobody's enthusiastic for Harris. If it was fair, it wouldn't be close. But if they do let Trump win, and the rightful person wins, that will mistakenly lead some people to believe that, oh, the system works, when it doesn't. Even if the person the people elect wins, doesn't change the fact that the system is severely, severely flawed, and they can do anything they want with it. And you watch these videos, and they're hard to watch. You see that very clearly. And it's interesting here because in the media, I'm going to show you first in the media how people who fight for election integrity are portrayed. Because if you are going to go up and speak in front of people and talk about the problems with the 2020 election, and you're going to talk to a bunch of brainwashed people who've been fed scripted talking points about election denier, conspiracy theorists, dangerous, you're going to sow chaos and confusion and prevent the certification. All of the people on the Democrat Kamala Harris activism side of this meeting were drones who said the same thing, while the people on the voter integrity side of it were the most prepared, thorough, badass, evidence-based. I mean, they know that everything that they say is going to be scrutinized. They're already demonized. And if they say one thing without having backup, case studies, statutory law, that they will grab that and they will use it to demonize them. And so they have to be the most prepared motherfuckers on the planet. And they were. It was like watching Socrates argue with the dumbest kid on Tim Walsh's football team, who's got a tampon in every orifice, which that's Walsh's favorite player. He's like, so they say he put tampon machines. The players were the tampon machines. You pull it out of Walsh's players, endless tampons. Why aren't you guys playing well? Does everybody have their tampons in? I mean, this guy is a creep. I'm sorry, I get derailed. It is wild, though, because it shows the gaslighting by the media and politicians for years at how they have portrayed these election integrity people as kooks who have no evidence. They are actually the baddest motherfuckers, and it's the other way around. And so first, I'm just rambling my ass off today, dude. Whatever, dude. Here is 60 Minutes, which is the worst piece of shit. I mean, they're all pieces of shit, dude. They're all pieces of shit. And people think 60 Minutes because they seem so serious and old. Oh, they're old and serious. They must be truthful. So this lady here, and this is what they do. They do this on all the networks. And they want to demonize a point of view. They find somebody who doesn't have the ability to speak the way that the people at the Georgia State Elections Board meeting spoke about the issue. I don't want to call her dumb, but they find the most inept person that they can make look stupid and then brand everybody who is part of that group as being the dumbest among them. I don't mean to call her dumb, but she is not prepared the way, like you put any of these other people at that meeting in this girl's seat and they would have handled it. But here's what they do is a quick clip.
You're self-educated.
That's correct.
Right there. I'm going to take that back. Look at the condescending piece of shit. You're self-educated, you dumb fuck. Where do you get off teaching yourself? Self-educated bitch. Fuck you. Ooh, this is the whole. They hate homeschooling. They hate self-sufficiency. They love public. Oh, you're self-educated, so you must know everything about election integrity. And just look at this cocksucker and the way this condescending piece of shit.
An administrator in a medical practice. You're self-educated.
That's correct.
When it comes to elections.
All right, so I'm going to back that up. You're self-educated, condescending, and you're right, Groby. The Dominion passwords thing, I'll get to that in a second. People had T-shirts on with all of the Dominion passwords on them. It was hilarious. It was great. But he said, you're self-educated. And then listen again to how what he throws in there.
She's an administrator in a medical practice. You're self-educated.
That's correct.
When it comes to elections.
When it comes to elections, okay. Is he a PhD in elections? Did he go to Harvard and major in elections? Did he write his thesis on election? Who isn't self-educated on? There is no degree program or educational path on the study of elections. Everybody who does election shit either learned from people who learned themselves, these watchdog groups, or they became a poll worker or something and started teaching them. That is what everybody is. But this motherfucker acts like you have to have a PhD that doesn't exist to speak about it. You didn't go to an Ivy League and have the highest GPA? What was your score on the elections test at Penn University? What a dumb piece of shit that guy is.
That's correct.
In a recent case, a judge disqualified you from testifying in the case because he said you were, quote, obviously unqualified, not even in the ballpark.
This guy drives me crazy. I'm sorry I keep taking this back. Watch how he puts his glasses on. He already knew what that said. He didn't need to look at his page. He did that for theatrics purposes, to make him look credible to his stupid, brainwashed audience. They probably don't even have lenses in those fucking glasses.
In the case, because he said you were, quote, obviously unqualified, not even in the ballpark.
That's one judge's opinion, who is a radical leftist, who is legislating from the bench, and I don't believe that it had
Also
any
true.
merit in my credibility whatsoever.
So also true. Another thing about 60 Minutes is 60 Minutes never does live interviews. They always interview the person, and once the person is gone, they chop it up the way they want it, and then they create the narrative that they predetermined they were going to tell. You could do the best interview in the world, flawless, and they could still portray you any way you wanted because they are going to start it with the voiceover that's recorded later, narrative at the beginning to contextualize, and then along the way, if they don't like what you said, they will simply just insert their own voiceover explaining what you said. I mean, that's how they do it. They're the most... And there's nothing about these interviews that should be trusted. It's like they must have like a movie editing studio the way they do this shit. More so than anybody else. Like I would never do an interview with 60 Minutes unless it was streamed live. I had my own camera crew there that was also filming me, and then I had another camera crew there that was specifically focused on filming 60 Minutes, filming me, and all of it's live streamed. That's the only way. Because they are cinema. And they rely on crafty editing and voiceover.
Is there a danger in undermining people's faith in the election system?
Dramatic theatrics. So this guy doesn't believe any of this shit. The acting there, I would have told him to believe it a little more. He was externalizing too much. He needed to internalize that fear he's trying to express about, he's trying to draw up images of democracy being destroyed. But since it's not a concrete picture of it in his head, it came off as a little inauthentic, in my opinion. Like, watch this. Really, I wouldn't. If this was an audition and he's going for that role, I'm saying next because I didn't like that performance.
Leftist, who is legislating from the bench, and I don't believe that it had any merit in my credibility whatsoever.
Is there a danger in undermining people's faith in the election system by persisting with these conspiracy theories that no one has been able to validate?
Untrue. Tons of people have been able to validate these so-called generic conspiracy theories. He's not specific. He just uses the branded terminology, and the terminology that he's using here are the exact same words that the Harris anti-election integrity activists that were at this meeting used. They all use the same shit that he's using. They had no argument. They had no evidence. They had no statutory law, no case law, nothing. Meanwhile, the other side has statutory law, has case law, has examples readily on hand. It's impressive. Like Jeopardy on this subject, they'd all win for weeks as long as they didn't have to go up against each other. They know they have to be better than the people who seek to destroy them, and they have to be ready.
Again, I'm going to disagree with you, sir, respectfully. It has been validated.
It has.
And because the
Where?
election,
By whom?
the election officials.
Give me a court case. Give me something.
So give me a court case, give me something. People in these other clips I'm going to show you, they have all of that. They can give him dozens of them.
I don't need a government official with a vested interest in disproving information to tell.
So that you get the point. This is the image of a fumbling conspiracy theorist who's going to destroy our democracy with deranged MAGA plots. And they also throw in anybody who's trying to promote election integrity, who's promoting hand counting of ballots, is someone who is involved in a MAGA extremist conspiracy to sow confusion and prevent the certification and to enable Trump to steal it. It's Trump's plan to steal it. And these are all the people who are simply promoting laws that are actually already on the books. So let me see, where were we here? I'm going to start with the second clip because I played this first one yesterday. And you can tell right away. Oh, dadgummit. Am I frozen? All right, so can you guys hear me? I'm frozen. I'm going to pop out. I'm going to be right. Don't go anywhere because I'm going to play these clips. This happens once a show. I'll be back in like 15 seconds. I apologize. All right. Oh, my God. All right, I'm back. Yeah, it happens once a show. Once a freaking show. Yeah, I got to pop in that new AOL disk. I still have an AOL email account. Nobody ever emails me there anymore except spam. It'd be funny, though, if people were still trying to contact. I've been trying to email you, Brad, for 15 years. Where have you been? Oh, I don't use email anymore, or AOL. All right. Let me get this back up here. I'm going to play a few of these and get out of here. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys. You know what? I'll start with this chick because she actually says some pretty great stuff. I don't know what these people's names are. I know that they've been in the weeds on this for years. They know their stuff. They're like Garland Favorito's army. What's up, Dub? Yeah, it is a clandestine email kind of. Bring it back, with a flip phone with the AOL. So this is a pro-election integrity speaker here during the public comments of the state elections board meeting in Georgia.
Right, under OCGA 20.
Take that back because this is exactly what I was just talking about.
Exercised our.
Hold on. Sorry.
Judges, former governors call us crazy and fight election security.
right
Why
on
would that be? They put up feeble defenses to keep a compromised system wide open.
Correct.
In July, several of us exercised our right under OCGA 21-272 to review unsealed election documents from the May primary. And
so notice that there. She cited statutory law that enabled her and others to do what they're legally allowed to do, which the opposition says is illegal and dangerous because they know they need to. They have to be better than the brainwashed horde.
June runoff. As a result, we produced close to a 100-page summary report of our findings, which each of you received a copy of, including missing chain of custody forms, incomplete forms with some having missing ballots sealed, missing memory cards or no chain of custody, broken or changed seals, and more. Initially, we were brought carts filled with boxes with security tape around them. Odd. We didn't realize at the time that they were what they were and cut the tape on 2 boxes, revealing individual bags containing the original ballots from various precincts.
So you get what she's saying there. They requested something and they were sent something that they didn't request. which I believe is ballots, if I remember this correctly.
We opened several to count the ballots to match with the outside documentation. Once staff realized they were quickly removed, we thought, how did we get these boxes in the first place if they are under seal with the Clerk of Superior Court pursuant to OCGA 21-500A? I communicated with the clerk of the court's office, and a few ORRs later, I was provided with some regular record transmittal sheets from the 2020 and 2022 elections of non-confidential or vital records. A follow-up call with the chief deputy clerk of court revealed that there really has been no solid procedure, and our sealed documents are stored at the election office in their prep center. The clerk's office had not adequately reviewed, inventoried, or validated receipt of these critical documents required by law.
Where she got the ballots from, they hadn't been inventorying them and keeping track of them at all until this woman, after she requested them to do this inspection, pointed out, hey, your shit's fucked up. And they're like, oh, maybe we should start looking into how we do this. And this lady is writing her back saying, thank you for opening our eyes to this.
She indicated my request had sparked a lot of conversation with the legal department and the need to tighten this process. She followed up with me by email stating, thanks for the call today. I appreciate you sharing your experience from this June regarding the elections records. Going forward, we, the clerk of court, will start receiving an inventory of the boxes sealed and labeled as clerk of court. We are awaiting the final read of the protocols by the law department. Thank you for pointing out an area that needs improvement. I am here today to tell you that our sealed documents have had no verifiable intake by the clerk of the court that I have been given for 2020, 2022, or 2024. I will tell you that everything I have laid eyes on is not how it should be.
I'm muted. Thank you. I just said brilliant stuff too, dude. It was just so good. What I was saying was that that's extraordinary that the clerk of the court was clueless to this system that 2020, 2022, 2024, they hadn't done any inventory of the ballots. They didn't know they were doing it wrong. They didn't know there was even a process until this woman, they made them aware of it. And to their credit, they acknowledged it and they said, we're going to fix it, right? The other side doesn't want this fixed. The people who oppose election integrity and transparency, they want the court to not know what's going on. They want those systems. They want no inventory. They don't want chain of custody. They want easily manipulated and broken chain of custody because that makes it easy to do what they want with it. And that's why they're fighting hard against this stuff.
We have a crisis in Georgia of bloated and unverifiable voter rolls, of trust that our election processes are efficient and transparent, or that basic laws of our election process are being followed. We are in a crisis of zero trust. Yep. Elections belong to the people. The Secretary of State and paid county election office are to ensure the election process is true, correct, and transparent. I did not acquiesce my constitutional right over our elections to anyone. The days of citizens just trusting the process are over, and every election going forward will be reviewed under a microscope. Please take notice.
That's important. And if Trump does win, if they allow him to win, what I was talking about this in connection with earlier that I didn't bring up earlier in tonight's show is Davos. A few years ago, I played this clip a number of times, said, with the elites of the world, we have never been more connected, but the people of the world have never distrusted us and the institutions of democracy more. And every Davos agenda since then has been about rebuilding the people's trust in these institutions of democracy so that they can better control the populace of the world. And an angle I was thinking about is they let Trump win, even though they're making it seem like they're not going to with the way they're fighting against this. And it wins a number of people back, and people don't do what she says right there. He wins, they think it works, and they trust, just like Davos wants them to, let their guard down. But if they do what she said, if regardless of who wins, the way you protect democracy isn't getting your guy or gal or they in. The way you protect democracy is doing what these people do, is regardless, you keep that microscope on it because you know that it can be manipulated. It'll never be perfect. And the second they get a chance to, they find a crack or a hole, they're going to try to exploit it. And they're going to try to leave those holes in the system. So if you want democracy, the way you keep it is election integrity, skepticism about all of it, intense skepticism. Even if your even if your grandmother is elected president, you say, I love you, Grandma, but I don't trust your ass right now, as long as you're not White House, okay? I feel you, but I'm skeptical that you stole the election, Grandma. Giving me these brownies with drugs in them. I fall asleep. I'm supposed to be a poll watcher. I wake up and half the ballots are missing. Where did the ballots go, Grandma President? Don't take cookies or brownies that your grandma who just got elected president baked, or if she's running, if you're a poll watcher is the lesson. Continuing on.
There has been no ballots under seal that we can identify in Gwinnett County for 2020, 2022,
No ballots under seal.
2024. I hope somebody will prove us wrong, but there is.
They won't give them the data. They've been trying to see the ballots. Garland has these events where they have let us see the ballots. Show us the ballots. They have shirts. Show us the ballots. They won't show them the ballots because the belief is that they've been destroyed. The ballots? Oh, no. Oh, I thought we were supposed to burn those. I thought we were supposed to burn those after the election was over. Just, too much paper is bad for the environment. We barbecue. Yeah, that's our fault.
There is really irreparable harm from the breach of trust that the public has in security and transparency with our elections. That's really all that needs to be said. It's irreparable harm. But I'm going to speak to very quickly just on the new rule that.
So this is a great point, too, because one of the talking points that the people expressing it know nothing about is that the new rules that were passed in Georgia are illegal. Yet they never cite any law that it breaks. They just say it's illegal. It's illegal. It's illegal to make tired people have to count. Numbers are scary. It's not illegal, actually, the new rules. You don't even need the new rules, and she'll tell you why.
Was passed. The new rule is not new law. The rule that was passed to hand count the ballots at the precinct level is law. And we heard the professionals say they can't do it. But
now, Garland went through these specific laws on the show. Not the previous time he was on the show, but the one before that, we meticulously, he showed them to us. He knows the laws. They know the laws. It was already law.
But it's law. It's been law. The rule that was passed supports the law. And that's what a rule is supposed to do. Constitutionally, it's not to abrogate what the law already says. It's to support the law. If you look at code section OCGA 21-2-437,
there you go.
It is very clear that Georgia has paper ballots.
I want to pause again there. I know it's weird to get excited about someone citing a specific statute that you can go look up. You can write it down. One guy even brings the law book of statutory laws up here to speak. You can go on your computer and search it, and you can read it yourself, which, contrasting that with what you'll see in a second, the activists who are for Harris and against this they cite nothing ever. It's just so cartoonishly stupid, the things they say, versus the thoroughness that these people bring. And yet, whatever, trying to protect what we got. And they are branded crazy. Right-wingers, they're not the dangerous ones. They're the ones trying to fucking save you.
That need to be counted at the precinct level, and actually the votes tallied at the precinct level per the law. The Georgia Supreme Court made it clear in Rodin versus Athens-Clarke County Board of Elections in 2020. The judgment was released 2 weeks before November 2020 election, yet the ruling was ignored. Its holding is based squarely on the force and effect of 21-2-437, stating, voting system whereby voters utilize electronic ballot marking devices to make and confirm their selections for each office, and were then provided a printed paper version of their completed ballot to review and feed into an electronic tabulator that optically scanned the paper, was an election conducted with paper ballots.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, that, you guys get that, but that, you know what I think would make some of this stuff stick a little more? Is if she was topless. Now, come on, Minnesota. If you want to protect democracy, make sure it's not considered illegal or indecent for women to present statutory law proving that the ballots should be hand counted while their tits are out. That's how we save this country. That's how you get people's interest.
So why is there so much pushback on just doing proper certification procedurally and lawfully?
And Dr. Jan, you come up to our whole county.
All right, pushback. This guy's funny. This guy's he's in the military. He's a poll watcher. And this is what was mentioned in the comments earlier. So you see these numbers on his shirt. This is the passcode for the password for the Dominion voting machines. All of them. All of them. It's publicly known. And from my understanding, what you can do with this password is the machines themselves are hackable, more easy to hack than a Windows computer, and the machines haven't been updated since 2020. Imagine not updating your phone or your computer since 2020. How riddled with viruses and vulnerable. I mean, these things suck half the time when you do update them. But I have old computers. You turn them on, you can't do anything with it. Nothing but animated porn. Like, you haven't used this computer in years. You open it up, you click one thing, animated porn everywhere. And like, you know, things are just like, it's just crazy when a computer gets all like jacked up on viruses and stuff like that. And if you can hack into the computer or the voting machine, which it was demonstrated in court multiple times by someone, how easy it is to hack in the machines. They showed the judge. They literally hacked the Dominion machines and changed votes in front of a judge to show this, that they could do it. If you can get in there and you have this password that is known across the country, it's out there. It's been the same way. There was like a dozen people that had the password on their shirts to demonstrate how widely known that password is, and that anybody with a little bit of hacking skills, and there's lots of people like that who has it, can get into the machines and they can change all of the data, change the votes, and then they can leave, and they can leave no trace that they were ever there. And the password is right out there for all the world to know.
It's a beautiful place.
Motorboating.
But we got 110% registered voters, more than our population of eligible voters. And normally in a normal situation, you got 65% registered people. This is ridiculous. Be holding these elections on these vulnerable machines. Amy Totenberg, what a shame. 8 months and you haven't ruled? Look what you're putting our country through. And last Monday, look what we had. Oh, darn it. don't read this password. This is a password that's all over the United States for the Dominion machine. So if you want to get in, I'm done.
That guy's great.
The point of this board is not to legislate or execute.
All right, so now I probably don't have to tell you that the person you see on screen now doing public comment is a Kamala Harris anti-voter integrity. That's not what he would call himself. But this is not someone who knows anything about what's going on, because the only thing that the people who are fighting against this stuff research, the only thing they have to know is the scripts they're emailed and the talking points they're told to repeat. A number of times during this hearing, there's people like this guy up there saying these empty, scripted talking points that we heard the 60 Minutes guy say, without even realizing that the person who spoke directly before them dismantled every single claim or assertion that they're making. But they just don't know shit about. They're empty drones. So they don't even realize they're stating what everybody in the room knows was just fucking destroyed. So they're not listening. And this goes back to the discourse in the country. They're not listening at all when you go up right after 5 people who just blew your argument away and you say the same exact shit. Here's, this is basically what all of them say.
Board is not to legislate.
Take it back a little bit here. He's a good speaker, though. He's going to be a good activist when I don't know if he's in college yet.
The point of this board is not to legislate or execute. It's to provide rules to make sure our elections are fair. None of you are legislators, and we can't change the laws of Georgia just because of what we want to do. Now, I don't question any of your intent. I stood in line with some good people this morning, heard that they had great intent on protecting this election. I think all of us
So I don't question any of your intent. Talks to the people who all know their shit, who are citing statutory law as though they're stupid and deranged, when he doesn't know shit about what's going on.
This room want to have a fair election, but that doesn't mean we get to ignore what our authorities are. And I want to read a quote directly from a member of this board, which is this discussion about whether it's in our...
That's an interesting thing to say. That doesn't mean we can ignore what our authorities are. This is what he cites. And the things that they cite are like Oscar Wilde quotes. I'm serious. Old propaganda, like the jungle. I'm like, that's not a statutory law.
Read a quote directly from a member of this board, which is this discussion about whether it's in our authority, ellipsis, I find irrelevant. Now,
what does that mean? Whether it's in our authority, I find irrelevant. And he doesn't say which board member.
I agree that we all need to make sure we have a fair election no matter what, but we can't deny what our authority is when we do that. So I want to be very clear that we need to take account the proper procedures. And
we need to take account of the proper procedures. The guy or the woman who was up there before him clearly laid out the statutory law that explains the proper procedures, that the rules that were passed to support. And the proper procedures are the hand counting of the ballots and the commitment, the duty to make sure no fraudulent ballots are certified. And he's like, we need to make sure. He doesn't know what the process is. And this is the thing. When you have a bunch of people who have absolutely zero idea what the process of something is, going up and talking about how great the process is or how there's no problem, you can't see the problems and holes in the process if you don't understand shit about the process.
And the proper timing to make sure that we have a fair election.
Oh, good. Really insightful. You really.
This board's
eye-opening.
actions have been illegal.
Okay, here's another other side of it, and you'll see just a difference in tone and thoroughness.
This board's actions have been illegal, unethical, and disruptive. Janice Johnston's bowing pirouette at a...
Okay, they've been illegal, unethical. Illegal how? So when you say something's illegal, you point to the law that's broken and you pull up a statute. You pull up the precedent. What does she do? She quotes poetry or some shit.
This board's actions have been illegal, unethical, and disruptive. Janice Johnston's bowing pirouette at a Trump rally was unbelievable partisanship, only to be topped by her taking it on herself.
What law? What statute? What statute you obviously... this woman goes to 6 activist meetings a week, and she leads Zoom meetings. I mean, this is exactly what every woman in all of the online activist training went to looked like. Same haircut, same expression.
To open social media accounts unauthorized in the board's name. She should be removed. But you already know all this chaos. It has been
tell
covered in
us.
lots of press during your campaign of extreme partisanship.
Again, have you heard any statutory law cited? Any legal? Nothing. This is rhetoric. She's actually
It
citing
appears this
propaganda.
board has no accountability and answers to no one.
Mhm.
You have approved ill-advised, complicated new rules.
Okay, so here, and they don't enforce this rule, but what they tell you on the brief, and they tell you when you get in there to these meetings, I went to the one before this, I didn't go to this one, but you are not, it says you are not allowed to read something written by somebody else. Maybe she typed or wrote this or copied and pasted it herself, but I know that what she's reading right now was not written by her because I got the same email. I got the same so this is actually in violation, what she's doing. So she's the one doing the illegal act, so to speak.
Johnston was a poll worker a couple of times, and the others, except for Attorney Gazal, have no election experience or expertise. But you act as if you know more about running elections than county election directors do when they plead with you not to change rules so close to a major.
That's the talking point. They plead with you not to change rules so close. Because counting is hard. That's the argument. They've learned how to do it. And you expect us to train all of these poll workers in counting? We train them to trust the machines over their own brain. They're all terrified of numbers. And now you expect us to train a bunch of people on counting, and we're just 3 weeks away from the election. We're not miracle workers. I mean, numbers?
Your election. Another book to recommend is It Can't Happen Here by Sinclair Lewis,
good.
written decades ago.
The propagandist.
The pit bulls and the originators of these rules
Pit
pretend the
bulls.
rules
There's another one. See, all they're using is rhetoric. The pit bulls is what the media brands the pro-integrity state elections board.
are about election integrity and so-called transparency. Please drop the pretense. We know these rules came from Trump's lawyers probing for areas where elections could be thrown
This woman needs to get laid.
into chaos to set the stage for a
There's
Trump
another
steal.
one. Throw it into chaos. Set the stage for a steal. She's reading from an email she got probably from Stacey Abrams' Fair Fight, and that's probably exactly what she got. What she's reading from. Because Fair Fight, Stacey Abrams' organization, is one of the groups that organizes these people and are in many of the lawsuits trying to shut down the integrity efforts.
Please drop the pretense. We know these rules came from Trump's lawyers probing for areas where elections could be thrown.
We know these rules, which the main rule is that you have to hand count the number of ballots to make sure it matches the number of people that voted. These came from one of Trump's lawyers who was probing to find out, here's what we do. Here's what we do, Trump. We have them count, which the Democrats and other politicians were saying was the only way to do 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, these people were saying the exact opposite. They're saying, you got to hand count. You can't trust the machines. One woman who was at the previous meeting went up and clearly described how much more accurate and how easy it actually is to do all of the counting. Because one girl went up there when I was there, and she had another girl come up and carry a giant stack of papers. Like it was covering her face, like she was going to do a Chevy Chase and fall over the ground. And she gets up there and she had it all planned. And she's like, I had to bring someone else up here to demonstrate to you guys how many ballots. You see how many papers, you see how many ballots. This is 80,000 ballots. We just got trained, and you expect us to learn to count this number. And the girl's like stumbling around. And as it turns out, the number of papers she added, she was lying about it. She just stacked up a bunch of papers like you would in a movie when you put a bunch of bills in a briefcase and say, it's $50,000. They open a briefcase and it's filled with bills, when in reality, you open a briefcase of $50,000 and it's just one thing of bills in the middle of the briefcase. The actual stack was this big, and then a woman came up after her and said, she's full of shit. We do it in this county, and we are the most effective and accurate, and we're done on election night. They just fucking lie about everything.
Into chaos to set
Thank
the
you,
stage
JC.
for Trump steal. We also know that some county election officials plan to refuse to certify without
It's not illegally. Illegally is the talking point. The previous woman just showed that it's not only legal, and Garland made this point. They are actually in violation, the state elections board members, they're in violation of their oath if they certify their county without investigating suspected problems. They are committing fraud if they don't do the hand-counted ballots to make sure. And yet they're trying to say it's illegal if they don't commit fraud.
even knowing the outcome or conduct of the election.
This woman is
The turnout for this election will be
insufferable to
much larger than many previous
for the
ones.
guy.
So why in heaven's name
So this is
would
her.
you
This is her reasoning. Why in heaven's name would you ask them to hand count the ballots when there's going to be so many more people? Because there's nothing more. The only thing scarier than Project 2025 is numbers.
election officials plan to refuse to certify without even knowing the
wait,
outcome
wait.
or conduct of the election?
She's just a.
The turnout for this election will be much larger than many previous
How
ones.
do you know?
So why in heaven's name would you voluntarily make it harder to administer, other than to deliberately sow chaos?
I don't think she read her script enough. I think she needed to do a few more reads before she came in.
The irresponsible disruption this board
So
has
chaos,
brought
that's
about
another,
must
so
be
those are the
stopped.
trigger words. So chaos, disrupt. What were some of the other ones she said? She's said all of them that you hear throughout this whole thing. Conspiracy. We've already trained them. These are the talking points. There she goes. She's going to go back home and.
I hear petitioners
Start a
say
Zoom
that
meeting.
the endless requests for changes are just common sense. And they
Now, if you couldn't tell, this guy was against, he was on the same side as that previous chick. By looking at him, I think his high-pitched voice probably gave it away.
I hear petitioners say that the endless requests for changes are just common sense. And they can't imagine why people would object. The same is said for these voter challenges. If they were truly common sense and being made in good faith, perhaps we wouldn't be here. But the fact that they target specific groups,
Oh.
mostly people of color, really
Oh.
speaks to the true intent of the national election denialists who are supporting these petitioners.
Oh, the national election denialists who are supporting the black head of the Georgia State Election Board, they're all racist. This white, dainty, high-pitched, bitchy man says that these new rules that ask us to count are clearly targeting black people who don't know how to count. And you know this because the black female head of the Georgia State Elections Board, who's in favor of the election integrity initiatives, is obviously a racist. God, that guy's a-
My name is William Ware Bush.
All right, so I got to. This guy looks like a TV preacher, doesn't he? I'm going to double speed his because he talks kind of slow. But he has good information.
Until recently, I owned and was the CEO of an institutional capital markets broker-dealer. Our mandate was to prevent fraud in the securities markets. The goal of this state election board is the same: free and fair elections with rules initiated to reduce the possibility of fraud. However, given a compromised governor, a coward attorney general, and an ideologue criminal secretary of state, the election board is bravely attempting to patch a badly flawed system. It is my sincere, deeply held belief the state of Georgia should eliminate electronic voting machines because the digital vote count can be easily manipulated because of flaws in the construction, security, and software of the machines.
True.
But then an illegal paper ballot has to be inserted to back up the digital manipulation. It is crucially important to prevent illegal paper ballots
Yeah.
to be slipped easily into the vote count. Now, where do the bad guys find illegal ballots? From voter rolls where tens of thousands of ineligible voters who are dead moved to duplicate or duplicates.
And they actually go through later in this meeting. I'm not going to play all this because it's hours. They go through case after case after case of examples of this very thing in Georgia. Multiple counties that have like 110, 115% of people registered to vote. And the average across the country in counties is like 66%. And many of these things can be slipped in, like he's talking about. I feel like this guy, he's like the granddad who, before every single meal or every time people get together, he's like, guys, toast, and he just gives way too long of a speech. But is a really nice guy.
I salute the patriots in this room who did the deep analytical work to identify voter records that should be cleaned from the rolls and brought the data to the attention of the county election boards. I trust the members of the various county election boards will do the right thing.
This board's action.
All right, so we'll see if you guys can guess. What do you think this girl here is in the yellow shirt? You think she is pro-election integrity, or you think she's Kamala Harris or Harris Walls 2024? It's really kind of crazy how you can tell immediately when you look at them which side they're advocating for.
Have undermined not only voter confidence in Georgia, but the confidence of our election officials in the ability to administer elections without interference, changing rules, and the threat of reprisal. In an incredibly consequential election year, the board's actions have caused an outcry from voters and poll workers alike, one that we have all witnessed firsthand. Today marks 1 week until the start of early voting. Poll workers have been hired, they have been trained, ballots have been mailed, and to put simply, we are still here.
Same thing. It's been said 3 or 4 times, and I didn't include all of the people. I mean, this has been said over and over again. And that is not actually an objection to the rule, because it's been proven on multiple occasions that it's very easy. It's very easy, and it's far more accurate than the Dominion voting machine.
Still rules in the process. We are meeting about potential new investigations to be implemented or carried out in mere days or weeks. And we are listening to folks raise baseless concerns about non-existent, ineligible voters, witnessing incredibly—
Not true. They prove that without a doubt many, many times in this very meeting. And yes, she does wish she had a black boyfriend, and she's like the angry babysitter activist.
Valuable time and resources of election workers, advocates, county administrators, and poll workers be wasted as they are having to leave the preparation to be here.
Oh, wow.
The board has stated that it is not trying to create confusion.
What are they preparing for? If they were trained to rely on the Dominion voting machines because it's so much better than the human being, if that was their training, the machine will do it for you. What are they having to prepare for right now then? I don't understand that.
Confusion or chaos. Its actions state otherwise.
There it is again. You heard it again. So confusion and chaos. It's fucking a robot.
They're having to leave the preparation to be here. The board has stated that it is not trying to create confusion or chaos. Its actions state otherwise.
Yeah.
If it was the case, then the board should have reversed course weeks ago. But in lieu of a time machine, you can just stop the actions that are creating the harm. You can stop making new rules. You can stop leading unauthorized investigations that are wholly unsupported by any statute based on bad data, misinformation, and bad actors.
So she just said it's not based on any statute when at least 3 people before she spoke listed multiple statutes that not only support, that require the state elections board to do the hand counting of the ballots, to make sure that it is a true count. Otherwise, they're oath. They cited them, all of them. They went through them, and this chick, babysitter, angry, who wants to be dating a black guy, is like, there is no statutory law. Again, I know I'm harping on this, but it's extraordinary to me that they have no specifics. They have no law they based on. The contrast, like having gone to law school, I went to law school. The people who are pro-election integrity initiatives are getting A's on their advocacy briefs. These people are all failing out of law school because this isn't how evidence works.
You can stop taking the time of county officials to prepare for these elections to perform for you. You can just stop, and you are not, even after being told of the harm you are inflicting.
I mean, the harm.
My name is Kathleen Hamill, and I'm here with the Georgia Democracy Task Force. I stand.
Look, so did you even have to hear any of that to know that this woman with that outfit is going to say the same shit that previous chick said?
Before you today as a Georgia voter There are more than 7 million registered voters in the state who should understand with confidence that our election system is solid and has stood the test of time.
It's solid. Now that is the stupidest comment our election system is solid, bro. It's the most secure election in American history. Literally, for an hour before she spoke, nothing but hard evidence and proof of just how vulnerable it is. And she's like, our election shit's it's solid, bro. Nothing's getting through there. Chastity belt on that shit. Oh, this guy's funny. So this guy, he spoke for a little bit, and he's got the encryption password for the Dominion things. He's got that shirt on. He put a bag over his head because he wanted to do a little demonstration. I like the effort here.
That prop is to show that we've all been in the dark, so to speak. And we were trusting
Oh, man, I could have coached him on that to perform that.
what we had for decades and decades until we determined that the Dominion voting system that we're saddled with in the state of Georgia
I really like putting the password on T-shirts. That's a good idea.
is not secure.
And the T-shirt says it. It would have been funny if when he got done speaking, he walked over to that previous lady, and he said, and he handed her, and he put the bag over her head, and then maybe they had a good time together.
The main core issues are still unresolved after 4 years. Number one, we still have a non-compliant, insecure voting system that has not been updated since installed in 2020.
That's crazy.
And as we've heard and seen testimony in state and federal court, the system has no security and was even hacked in front of a federal judge. The system admin passed.
Isn't that wild? He says it in such an understated way, and these people aren't dramatic. They don't do the dramatic shit that the people who lie all the time do because they have to do that because they're lying. Somebody hacked a Dominion voting machine in front of a judge multiple times. And these machines, Garland talked about this. Garland spoke. I don't have his clips here. He put it on Rumble, 9 minutes of him going through some of this stuff or what he was talking about. And he talked about how the Dominion voting machines that are online, and they're connected nationwide. All of them are. And they've been proven in front of a judge on multiple occasions to be very easily hacked. And then you have these passwords that are available on T-shirts and around the world. And yet you have these people like that previous woman saying, our voting machine, everything is solid. It works great. I mean, that is wild.
Password and encryption keys are in the wild or in the public. It's emblazoned on T-shirts all across the state now. Number two, our voting rolls are bloated and being centrally manipulated. You've been provided reams of evidence to this fact. Number three, our state and federal election laws are being violated from the county all the way up to the Secretary of State, yet no enforcement has taken place. The proverbial can has been kicked down the road by all the branches, executive, legislative, and judicial, both the county, state, and federal levels. We find ourselves in a state of lawlessness.
It's true.
Regardless of the outcome 30 days from now, neither side will be happy, and we'll have to repeat the process all over again. We've been declaring that we're in an impractical situation. We repeat again, the only practical remedy. Use emergency paper poll books per Georgia Rules and Regs 183-1-12-19.
Statutory law.
Use emergency paper ballots per OCGA 21-2-3.
Statutory law right off the top of his head. These people are prepared.
3-4. 1 BMD per precinct for accessibility and purposes and a tabulator count of on day of election.
I mean, this guy's rattling off law like it's his phone number.
Plus, we must have a full hand count certification before we certify per OCGA 21-2-437, 21-2-493.
Fourth statute.
And per OCGA 21-2-70-15, all election workers have a duty to certify to prevent fraud, deceit, and abuse, and to make a true and perfect return. With all the evidence has been brought.
This guy's cited 5 statutes. The chick, couple people before him is that there's no statutory law. Dude just rattled off 5 statutes, and I read all of them, and they are correct. People who cite their work aren't afraid of their work because they're telling you to go check it. I mean, these people are the real deal, man. So, I mean, these public comments, too, I cut about 25 minutes of it. It was like 3 hours. This went on all day.
Of on day of election, plus We must have a full hand count certification before we certify. Per OCGA 21-2-437, 21-2-493. And per OCGA 21-2-70-15, all election workers have a duty to certify
Yes.
to prevent fraud, deceit, and abuse, and to make a true and perfect return. With all the evidence that's been brought forward, the passwords out in the open, the security system's hacked, you cannot say we have a secure system.
But they do.
State Election Board, I'm asking you to declare a state of emergency today to secure our elections.
I mean, it's crazy. And these are the crazy conspiracy theories with all of this evidence and law they cite.
My name is Kate.
All right, so I played this one yesterday. I'm going to end on this one, and I'll maybe do a few more. I know some of this stuff is tedious, but I just really wanted to show this, to show the contrast, because these people are smeared. They're smeared, and they're demonized to discredit how unbelievable and thorough and good they are. They know that these people know what they're talking about, and they want to prevent others from discovering it. So they brand them as crazy. And this lady right here is like perfect, just a perfect expression of somebody who doesn't know anything about this, trying to fight people who know everything about it.
My name is Kate. I'm a registered voter in Georgia, and I want to know why we even have public comments. I was here last month where expert after expert, who none of you are, a county expert, told you that these recent changes.
So they throw around that term. What's a county expert, by the way? And they use that tactic, expert that. There is no, like I said, PhD in election. But this is also part of the activist strategy that they include in those emails. You call them this. It's what Edward Bernays told David Letterman. You trust me because you call me doctor and because I had the white lab coat on. Somebody came up after her, which I don't have that one, and said, I'm a doctor. I'm going to tell you that because apparently that gives me credit here. And people are throwing expert terms. And she actually goes through all the people who are speaking about the election integrity stuff that are saying all the statutes. They have been working. They actually are the foremost experts in the country on this subject. They've been working in these organizations for years and years, as I said. The people she's talking about are random activists who have been put in a position and propped up by Fair Fight Georgia and basically probably purchased, or the communists can win local seats. Everybody knows anybody can win a local seat because they're not as challenged as much. They are brand new, and yet because they have a position, even if they don't know shit about election or the process, this girl is trying to convince people that their title is their expertise, and that anybody who doesn't have their title, even if they've been doing this for 25 years like Garland, you don't have a right to talk. She's like, I literally can't tell you what chain of custody means. I have no idea where the ballots go when I stick them in the machine. I don't know anything about this shit. You know everything about it, and we are on the same level because you don't have the title that the Democrat on my side over there does. Talk about bitchy babysitter. This chick right here, Central Casting. And she gets really pissed too.
Have public comments. I was here last month where expert after expert, who none of you are, a county expert, told you that these recent changes
I'm a county
were going to be impossible to implement this soon, and that they were not going.
She says that, and she ignores that multiple people who work in counties that have been doing hand count ballots came right up and said, actually, no, that's all bullshit. Here's how we do it. And we do it by the first night, every single time. Every time. Like, everything she's saying is a lie.
To cause anybody to have any confidence in this system that is already working. I believe in what's happening. It works. T-shirts, I am speaking.
I love that. She Heiled Hitler and screamed at the people with the password T-shirts who I guess were talking, but we couldn't hear them. Watch her Heil Hitler. There she is. There she is, heiling Hitler as she yells at the people who are trying to protect any, semblance of democracy. that we have.
confidence in this system that is already working. I believe in what's happening. It works.
Hello,
T-shirts, I am speaking.
Jews. I am
please.
speaking.
Order, please.
Please.
Order.
Let's be nice. Let's be
Dude, this
respectful.
chick's got some stress.
Dr.
going on.
Johnson, this is similar to you performing a procedure that you've never done before and going to the waiting room to ask a family member how to do it
That's not. That's,
and
that's the
disregarding
worst
all
comparison.
expert opinion.
It's not even. Close.
I am sick that I had to take time out of my day to come down here and babysit you. You're supposed to work for us, not for Donald Trump. This
She
election
is
was
the babysitter.
not stolen. We all know that.
Oh, do
There is
we? God, that's great. You nailed it with the babysitter there.
family member how to do it and disregarding all expert opinion. I am sick that I had to take time out of my day to come down here and babysit you. You're supposed to work for us, not for Donald Trump. This election was
That's-
not
it's
stolen. We all know that. There is a minority that believes it was,
That's
and
not
you are
true.
letting them hijack a system that works. I think it's fine
Yeah,
to clean the
it's
voter
fine.
rolls with people
I
who
got a
have
bridge to
probably
sell this
died,
chick.
okay? But we're not going to do systemic cleanings.
We're not. She thinks she's in charge. I think.
I think the poll workers and the county officials,
I think she's. Gonna
I will
cry.
see you at early voting. I believe in this system. I will not be deterred.
Then you're
I will
stupid.
speak the truth come what may, and I will babysit you if I have to.
She will. She will angrily babysit you. You guys nailed that in the chats. Yeah, she will angrily babysit. That. I mean, is that not the perfect expression of delusion? And also the point of view that our media tries to represent as the popular point of view. It's really kind of. I mean, it's crazy. That girl's crazy, dude. That girl was seething. She was seething. You don't want her babysitting your child. If you're an election worker who needs babysitting, you don't want her babysitting you either. You know, unless she gets that green thing off and we see what she's working with underneath. Okay. If you just got here, wrapping that back around to the tits story we opened with, and that's where I'm going to close it out. Thanks for listening and watching all that. I know some of this stuff is tedious. I'm just trying to show some of this stuff off because, like, when I first started talking to Garland, I mean, I didn't understand the stuff. It was over my head, and I've learned a lot more through him and researching it. But it's boring. It's long. It involves weird statutory legal language, but man, it really is what's important. And they conflate people like Garland who fight to protect the elections and make them have as much integrity as you can. They'll never be perfect. They conflate that and they just say he's working for Trump to make people like her never look into it. If she didn't associate people who tried to protect our elections or advocate for hand-counted ballots, if she didn't associate that with Trump, who she's afraid is going to get her pregnant, rape her, and force her to have the baby if he's elected, if she didn't associate them with him, then she might actually look into it and realize how stupid she sounds right now. Nobody is letting you babysit their kid when you're that stupid, or maybe they are. But nobody who's pro-election integrity. I've rambled way too long. Thank you guys again. Thanks for the tip, JC. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, the sweater is. It's like the sweater's, it's interesting. It's an interesting choice. But it's also intriguing, isn't it? It's like, what's underneath that sweater? Dicks, probably. It's probably dicks. Probably dick tits underneath the sweater. That would be very, very disappointing. I mean, there's nothing more disappointing than thinking you see a smoking hot chick, stacked, pulls it off, and she's got big dick tits. We'll end the show there. Freedom Act Radio, youtube.com/Brad Binkley, rumble.com/Prop Report, Propaganda Report on all of the podcasting apps. And we will do it again soon. Ian and I tomorrow, or I guess today, it's 2 a.m. here, are going to be trying to infiltrate Doug Emhoff's Atlanta Pride Festival kickoff tomorrow in Atlanta. And we will report back to you our experience. So looking forward to that. You guys have a fantastic rest of your evening, morning, wherever you are. Talk to y'all next time.